She knows how to twist. Come on and twist. Yeah, baby, twist. Ooh, yeah. Just like this. Come on, little miss. And do the twist. Yeah. That's all right. Yeah. Twist all night. Twist.
Huh?
Okay, you guys ready? All right, welcome to the Lancaster City Council meeting.
This long?
Now we're good.
The music.
Sorry. Trying to get the music on, so sorry.
Good with that playlist, though.
It was a good one. Okay, council member, agency director, authority member Molly,
Present?
Mann, Underwood Jacobs,
Present.
Vice Mayor, Vice Chairman Christ,
Present.
Mayor Chairman Paris.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Motion excuse, man.
A second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
That's housing.
Housing authority.
Okay, authority member Harvey,
Present.
Molly,
Present?
Mann, Vice Chair Christ,
Present.
Chair Zetto. Here. We have a quorum.
Okay, the invocation tonight is Pastor Jeremy Hartley at Grace Chapel.
Thank you, council members. If you would allow me to pray, that would be my honor. Father, Lord, we are thankful to live in such a city where our leaders care deeply about the hearts of its citizens, Lord. And so I thank you so much for the leadership that you have provided for us, Lord. Your word has made it clear that you have instituted government for our protection, for our betterment, and for us as a nation as a whole to give you glory. And so, Lord, thank you for the leadership here and its citizens as well that desire to speak. I pray that you would be with everyone today in this meeting as they hear from one another, as they make difficult decisions, and as they put their minds together to improve this city. Would you give them wisdom and discernment? Father, we love you. Thank you again for the city that you've provided for us. We pray these things in your name. Amen.
Liz, come on up here. Are you responsible for naming this Lancaster Successor Agency Oversight Board?
No, I would have made it a lot shorter.
I wish you had. I would like to take this moment to recognize the Lancaster Successor Agency Oversight Board Chair, which is Liz. This outstanding individual has worked diligently to improve our city through the completion of the long-range property management plan and the housing asset transfer, which kept low to moderate income housing local, all while representing key community agencies and continuously ensuring the best interests of our citizens were protected and advanced. And took the time to write this. No.
That was sounding really good.
As the Successor Agency Oversight Board is dissolved to make way for Supervisorial District Oversight Board, boy, I'm waiting for that one. I'd like to thank the board chair, Elizabeth Brubaker. Elizabeth has dedicated her time and energy to the progression of development here in Lancaster. On behalf of the entire Lancaster City Council, I would like to congratulate you on a job well done. Thank you. So, what was the value? Millions?
Oh, yeah. And we saved very good parcels located in the city of Lancaster.
For more millions later.
That is correct.
I mean, millions. Millions and millions. That's really cool.
Yes.
And she didn't even ask for a cut.
Well, she might ask.
City manager, anything to be removed?
No, sir. I would like the CC3. Can we take it off and have it voted on when there's a full council.
If that's the will of the council, sure.
Let's do that. All right, I'm going to turn it over to the Housing Authority. Okay, it's yours.
Authority Molly will be recusing.
Can I stay, or?
You can stay. I don't believe there's, yeah, you can stay. I'm not aware of any conflict type issue, so yeah, you can stay. You're simply not seated. Oh, this is located near property you own, so it would be appropriate for you to leave the dais. Sorry, Mr. Mayor.
So the mayor and authority member Molly.
Yes, I have to recuse because I'm close to the property.
I'm glad you're not my brain surgeon. Oops.
All right, we have one speaker card. Michael Reeves.
Madam Chair, Council, staff, ladies and gentlemen, I'm speaking about HACC1 and its beginning of Medical Main Street, if I read the attachment correctly. It's something I've always said, that Medical Main Street is the salvation of this community. However, I've mentioned to the hospital board and various CEOs that we need to work with the people in the neighborhood around there. For Medical Main Street and also for whatever the hospital is going to do in the future. We need to have meetings with the people because they're going to be, and I happen to live there, unfortunately for all of you, they're going to be impacted by all the construction that's going to go on probably for the next 10, 15 years over there. So I'm very happy that, we're starting to do something with that land. Starting to do something about Medical Main Street. But I want to caution everybody that you need to involve the people who live around there, some whom have lived there since the track was started in the late 50s. Because if you don't, you might run into a situation like Quartz Hill and Walmart. Thank you.
Is there a motion and a second?
Motion to approve HACC 1.
Second?
Let's vote. And it passes
Unanimously.
unanimously.
Can we take a break for 2 minutes while they change the screen? Thank you. So moved.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Passes unanimously. Okay, consent calendar.
Motion to approve the consent calendar pulling CC3. Wait a minute. We do have a speaker card with Michael Reeves.
For CC2, CC3, and CC5. Let's just have them do it. And we'll All right, come on up. What?
Mayor, council, staff, ladies and gentlemen. Last time I was up here, I spoke about the check and wire registers and how I wished that they were separated by the departments for the convenience of the council and the public, so we would know where the expenditures were going by the department. This week they say, well, for each expenditure is available in the finance department. I don't think you want me to have to go to the finance department. I know Mayor Paris would not like it. If I had a question about the finance, because then I would be bothering somebody that was working. But if we had it on the report every month, separated by departments, it would be helpful. I also want to speak again about the mini mall gas station that's going to be constructed at 20th and Elm. I've had a chance to observe that. Now, that's going to be right up to somebody's house on that corner. Now, if you know the gas station over here at K and 10th, there's a road and then there's walls separating the houses and the gas station. But what it looks like on the corner of L and 20th, the wall is going to be right up to somebody's house. So someone purchased the house thinking they were in a rural environment, and now they're going to have a wall and a service station and a car wash right next to the house. I think at least you could put a road in there and separate that entity from the people living in the house. Again, I'm happy about these changes in the billboard. Now, the last time we had a meeting, the person from one of the departments got up and mentioned a deal with Lamar Signs, and then we got into talking about changing the rules for the signs in the city. And here we are again, voting on this again.
Nobody asked you?
I don't think it's proper that people got campaign contributions in the form of signs should be voting on something, and it's pretty obvious it's for Lamar, where they can put up these flashing signs all over town. So if you have a client of theirs, Mr. Paris, and you have two people that got contributions from it, that's 3 people out of 5, so they can't vote, so you can't vote on this. Thank you.
Allison, just for the record, could you clarify that for us?
With regard to campaign contributions,
Is it legal?
is it legal to vote?
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you. Remember, you get paid by the hour.
Okay, let's take items 6 and 3 off the consent calendar. Is there a motion?
And 7, too.
And what?
Number 6 was an item on which you needed to recuse yourself.
That's
Item
correct.
7 is one on which Councilmember Molly needs to recuse himself.
Okay. So we'll take 6, 7, and 3 off the consent calendar. Is
Very
that
good,
correct?
thank you.
Is there a motion to approve it as comprised?
Motion to approve the consent calendar is currently comprised, pulling CC3, CC6, and CC7.
I'll second.
Let's vote. It's unanimous. On CC, is it 5 that?
6 is the one for you, Mr.
No,
Mayor.
6 is for me. And,
CC 7 for
okay,
Councilmember
you
Molly.
want to go stand and,
All right. I have to recuse me because it's closer to my
we got a
business.
pit down there, we got to, never mind.
Motion to approve CC6.
7, not 6.
Seven.
Sorry.
I'll second.
7 comes after 6.
I know, but 6 comes before 7. You should have been gone first.
I was being polite. Is there a second?
Yes.
Let's vote. Okay, passes unanimously. Mr. Molly, you can come back. You're not supposed to be listening.
Okay, motion to approve CC6.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Vote. Motion passes unanimously.
You can do it without me.
Thanks, Dick.
All right. J and B 1.
No speaker cards.
Let's waive the staff report on it. Is there a motion?
Motion to adopt resolution number 18-38.
Second that?
Let's vote. It passes. Did Michael say it was okay?
The financing authority, do we need to vote on that separately?
Seeing as you just voted on Resolution 18-38, yes, it would be appropriate to have a motion now for FA 01-18.
I'll move that we adopt resolution FA 01-18.
Second that?
Let's vote. It passes unanimously. New business item 1.
No speaker cards.
Let's waive the staff report. Is there a motion?
Move to approve NB1.
I'll second.
Let's vote. It's unanimous. NB2, any speaker cards?
I think it's just a,
Just a
receiving file.
So where's Mr. DeRico? Oh, Captain Weber's going to do it. Oh, that's this item.
Mr. Mayor, Council, I was asked to provide a little presentation this evening on kind of some directions we're going to be moving towards in the new fiscal year, starting up at the station level, and then also talk about some of the priorities with the Sheriff's Department, in particular to recruitment and retention, and where we're going with that as an organization, and the priorities and so forth. So I've got some information on that, and then if there's anything else you'd like me to address while I'm up here, I'd be happy to. I've been here for a little over a year now, and we basically kept the same deployment that we had when I showed up. And we've looked at it, and we had a lot of teams that were very effective at keeping the crime rate down, through follow-up and reacting to crimes. Our robbery suppression team and our burglary suppression team and the land cap team all worked in various ways to do that, and it was very effective. But things are starting to change. We're seeing that we're still as effective on the follow-up portion, extremely effective. Our robbery suppression team has a solve rate of around 50%, which is really high if you look at it. Statewide, countywide, that's a very high solve rate. Our burglary team does the same thing, very high in solving, and they just do it through just tenacity. It was just tenacity and gumshoe police work. They immediately come in the morning. They meet with our crime analysts, and they do some hotspot policing. Where are our hotspots? What different areas are we having spikes in, or most of our activity in? And then they hit that for a portion of their day. And then for the other portion of the day, they follow up on crimes immediately. They don't wait for the reports to come through. They go to the crime analysts, and they're pulling this information up immediately so they can start whatever follow-up they can do. But we saw we had some room for improvement for proactively trying to stop crimes before they happen. And we're trying to adjust our deployment a little bit to to help leverage that opportunity. So we're going to be redeploying a little bit, changing our teams up some. Land Cap is going to be continuing to work with the apartment owners and managers to do the crime-free initiatives with the owners, help them manage the apartment complexes most effectively to keep crime down. But they're also going to be working with robberies and burglaries too. Also, kind of taking on a few more hats and working really with our crime analysts to do predictive policing and smart policing. Where is stuff happening immediately, and how we can affect it now? That's going to free up a number of bodies. That's still going to leave 8 deputies, 2 investigators, and 2 sergeants on that team, which is an effective number because it leaves us with enough people to where we could really divide that team into 2 bodies and serve multiple search warrants at once. It gives a good ratio for entries and supervision, so where you can break up and work multiple things at once, while it will also leave us with a number of bodies to put back into patrol. It's going to enable us to enact 4 overlap cars on PMs and 4 overlap cars on days. So what that means is we're going to be able to put an additional 2-man car on PM overlap shift, which will be run from like 4 in the afternoon to 2 in the morning on both ends of the week, Wednesday through Saturday and Sunday through Wednesday, because we found that Wednesday is our busiest day of the week. It will give us the most overlap on that, and then it will give us an additional 1-man car on both ends of the week in patrol, also handling calls. And it will give us the same model for day shift overlap, a 2-man overlap car, and then 2 2-man, 1-man cars. And that not only will it help us with proactive stuff, but it will help us with response times, because that's when we're usually busiest. That's when we see our biggest increase in response time, is when we're at overlap shift, when the end of day shift is coming up and PMs is coming on, and when the end of PMs is coming on in the beginning of early mornings. That's when we have your most staffing issues. So that's going to help even that out some and give us more standard deployment in those peak times. And there's going to be some other advantages, I feel, for the average deputy in patrol. Not only will it put more deputies out in the field, alleviating some of the strain off the guys who are already out there working hard, but it gives them an opportunity to look forward to working one of these 2-man cars on a rotational basis, just for morale building, just to have something to look forward to. If we keep working and they show up, they're doing a good job for us, they can rotate in one of these 2-man cars on a 6-month period. So it helps improve morale. Another thing that's really helped us with is we have a very young patrol force here, very young. It wasn't always that way, but as the station has progressed, moved on, we've had people retire. It has put a lot of new folks and new faces on the line. So moving some of these more experienced deputies who are on these teams back on the line, that's going to put more experience with our newer deputies and help bring them along experience-wise, and help them with little nuances of investigations, and really learning how to handle calls for service effectively. That's a job that's very important, but sometimes gets overlooked. You always think of all these high-speed units, and whether it be a special problems unit or special enforcement bureau, whatever these kind of high-profile units are. The bread and butter of law enforcement is the deputy out in the field handling calls for service, and that's a skill that has to be learned. It's not easy. It's sometimes overlooked for how important it is, but learning the foundation of just handling calls correctly and being a good, just regular old street cop is important, and that's going to help us out in that effect. I think there's a lot of advantages to it. I think it's going to help us in a lot of ways. And like everything else, we can't be afraid to fail. We think it's going to work. We have high hopes for it. We'll run it, and we'll check that deployment out for 60, 90 days and reassess it. And if it's working the way we want it, then we'll continue with it. And if it needs some tweaking, then we'll tweak it, move on. But I'm a firm believer in my staff that we can't be afraid to fail. We found some areas that we want to improve in, and that we can leverage some opportunity to improve, and we're going to try it and move on from there. Any questions on on that before I go to recruitment and retention, or
Before you go to what?
recruitment and retention and that kind of stuff?
I understand a thing that's using up our resources is the false alarms for residential burglaries. Is that right?
Yes, I don't have the exact numbers of how many false alarms we respond to, but that is a call that we respond to, and often are false alarms. And we issue the FON warning notices and continue on that way, but that is always, everywhere I've worked, that's an issue you deal with.
Is there a protocol that we follow in asking the alarm company, where the entry is? Is there an entry? Was the alarm
when the
turned
call
off?
comes in from the alarm company, they'll tell you what the alarm is. Is it a motion detector? Is it a broken glass sensor? Motion, movement?
Did they tell you if that's been turned off?
If it's...
I mean, this morning I got up, me and my dog walked downstairs, and the alarm went off. I forgot to turn it off. My wife wasn't there to remind me to do that, right?
Yes.
So I punched in the code, and it goes off. Is that information conveyed?
Yes, it would. If we weren't there already, if we weren't already on scene, they would call and they would cancel that response. You punch in your code or you make your call and you give your safe word or whatever the indication is. Yes, they would relay that to us and the call would be canceled.
Okay. Well, but that's a two-step process. One is when I punch it in. Another is if they actually called me, because they didn't call me. It's okay, I didn't need the call. But my point is do we have a decision table that's made out as to when we respond and when we don't, rather than responding to all of them?
No, if we get an alarm call, we respond to it unless we get a call from the alarm company saying that either the code was entered and it was determined to be a false alarm, but absent a call from the alarm company saying that we've contacted the owner.
Why are we responding to an internal motion sensor if there is no entry?
Well, a sensor could fail. And in essence, every false alarm, or every burglar alarm call, that's in essence a burglary now call for us. We can't assume that it's not a good call. We can't assume that. I mean, that's where the FON notices, the false alarm warning notices, come into play. If we get repeated calls and the sanctions take place, it encourages the people to take care of whatever the issue might be, if it's a false sensor or whatever the case may be.
Well, I'm confused as to who said that every burglar alarm has to be a burglary in progress call. Who said that? I mean, because it occurs to me an internal alarm, an internal motion sensor should not be given the same priority as an entry alarm, right?
Well, I see where you're going with that, but from our standpoint, from best practices, we can't assume that we had a motion alarm go off, but it can't be good because there wasn't a broken window or there wasn't a door.
I didn't say we're making a decision that it can't be good. We're just making a decision that it's a lower priority.
Well, when I say that it's a burglary now call, if you have someone call and say, I just saw someone go to my neighbor's house, that's a burglary now call. That's going to be a code 3 response. Whereas a false or a burglar alarm, it's a routine response. It's not going to be a code 3 emergency response. But the reason we have to roll to it is, like I said, because in essence, that alarm is saying the house is being burglarized. Now, we give a different priority than if someone sees someone enter a house or, hey, I just got home, my neighbor's doors is kicked open. That would be a higher priority response.
Okay, you're telling me there's a higher priority if it comes in on the telephone, but there is no prioritization if it comes in from the alarm company.
There isn't. It's a routine response. All of our calls are either routine response, priority response, or an emergent response. If someone calls and says, I saw someone go into my neighbor's house, and it's not my neighbor, I think that's what's being burglarized.
Of course.
That's a code 3 emergency call.
I'm not questioning the decision table that's there. I just want to make certain that there are decision tables that are allocating resources and that we're not doing it just because it was done that way 20 years ago. The concern I see constantly, I see it as a lawyer in the courthouse, is that people just use resources, there's only so many courtrooms, there's so many judges' time, and it just drives me crazy when lawyers just file motions to file them, because there's no recognition that this is a valuable resource. And in regards to the sheriff's department, we are overutilized, wouldn't you say?
Yes, to an extent. I think part of it is that people know that if they call the sheriff's department, someone's picking up the phone. But that being said, we have to react accordingly, and we can't just really handle calls over the phone. In a lot of cases,
we're bringing IBM on Watson. I want that to be addressed.
Yeah, we were just, I'm sorry.
Okay.
Yeah, we were just talking about that. That is exactly one of those things where you can dig deep and say how many of them and parse it into what kind of calls and such, and then maybe look at getting additional information. So absolutely.
I'd be curious to know if there ever was a burglary where it was just an internal sensor, what do you call it, a motion sensor, without an entry. Because that happens to me frequently, and I can't be that unusual.
well, I can absolutely tell you without a doubt that there are burglary alarm calls that are good calls, that a burglary has occurred. Now, in particular, that I don't have that information for you. We'd have to research something like that.
Let's do that. Because if it's never happened, maybe we should just eliminate those calls, right? I'm not saying we should. I'm just saying we haven't looked at it, right?
I would say exactly we haven't looked at it.
All right. Thank you. You will.
Yeah, absolutely. They should be on scene in a couple of weeks, and then we'll be accessing the database, and we'll give a report too on what we find.
Okay. Thank you.
All right. And now,
I'm
sorry.
I have two questions.
Sure.
Earlier, you said that Wednesdays were the busiest days.
Yes.
Most people, I would assume, would think that it would be a Friday or a Saturday. I'm wondering what's happening on Wednesdays. The second question that I have is, you mentioned crime-free initiatives, and if you can elaborate as to what they are.
Well, I guess that was in speaking of land cap, and they mean land cap. The deputies on the land cap team are assigned to different apartment complexes within the city that participate in the program, and they maintain a liaison with the managers of the complexes, open line of communications. But something else they do is about twice a year they hold classes for the landlord or the manager of the apartments to help them on how to screen tenants, different things they can do with crime prevention through environmental design. SEPTED is an acronym, which is basically how can we take technology or landscaping or engineering and help create a space that helps keep crime free. Like, for instance, keeping your bushes trimmed at a certain level will give you a view of an apartment complex, or certain lighting issues will help you. Or if your problem is with skateboarders who are grinding along curbs or benches, you put the little knobby type accoutrements on there that stop that. Or it might be as easy at a gas station that has loitering problems with instead of playing pop music on their music, play classical music, because most kids don't want to hang out and listen to classical music. I mean, SEPTED is really a kind of a thinking out of the box type deal, where you can come up with solutions to problems that you wouldn't normally think of, with not just a uniform presence or security presence, but just through the design of the environment of the complex. They'll give them tips on that. But part of it's really just keeping a line of communications open, so if the apartment manager is having problems, they know who to talk to. They know a deputy that they can reach out to and deal with them directly, instead of trying to call and just have someone show up.
Okay.
If that makes sense.
It does, absolutely. And tell me what's going on Wednesdays.
Well, Wednesday, it could be a number of things. It's not one thing in particular. We just run, why do we have the most calls? And it just happens to be Wednesday. It's not just crime. It's not crime now. But we find that when we run the calls for service, Wednesday is our busiest day.
Yeah, but wait a minute. That can't be consistently Wednesday after Wednesday, and there not be some causative factor that is occurring on Wednesday that isn't occurring on the other days. And it sounds like we haven't even looked for it.
Well, I don't have the information in front of me, so I don't want to mislead you. But we look at Wednesday, and Wednesday is our busiest day. Now, is it way busier than a Friday or a Saturday night? No, and there could be some weeks where Saturday's busier or Tuesday's busier or whatever, but we find that Wednesday, just call volume wise, is our biggest days. That's another thing that IBM can probably drill in on.
I'm reading a couple books on causality, and you're just having to stand there on that particular day. But
if you talk to me in November, I might say Tuesday's our busiest day. But right now, we're seeing that Wednesday is typically our busiest day for calls for service.
you know as well as I do, when you have repetitive things happening, there's usually some causality there that we just haven't located. And I want that stuff we have to start looking at that. Okay?
Sure.
Of course, somebody told me it was ice cream because, in the summer, ice cream sales go up, and so does crime. Actually, it was in Ford Motor Company when I lost a case, but that's all right. That's what they told the jury. Okay, let's go. What else we got?
Another thing I was asked to talk about was retention and recruitment, and what the department's doing in that manner. And it was, back in last October, the sheriff had all the executives, all the captains and above had a retreat. We all had to be up at a conference center, and it was everyone. And there was no excuse you couldn't leave. In fact, I missed Sergeant Owen, the anniversary of Sergeant Owen's death, because the sheriff said no one's leaving except for himself and Commander Nelson. And it gives a chance to get all of the executives together. They broke all the captains up into different groups, the commanders and the chiefs, and then the top executives. And they asked us all, what's the biggest concern in your command? And without a doubt, with all of our captains, all the captains who either had a patrol station or a custody facility, it was staffing. That was our biggest concern, staffing issues. And it was across the board. And it was a chance for us to express all of that to our top executives. Hey, this is what we're seeing at the line level. Because sometimes there's a disconnect in there. And that was the sheriff's goal, was I want to know from you guys, I don't want there to be anything between us, I want to know from you all what your biggest concerns. And with that, we all thought we had, once we came up with the plan, was, what our concern was, what was all of our answers. You don't come to me with a problem without an answer. And we all thought we had all these great ideas, and we're throwing all these ideas out there. And the captain from personnel said, those are all great ideas, and in fact, that's what we're doing now. We're already doing that stuff. So Sheriff made it a priority at the time. He was going to develop this working group that was going to work strictly on retention and recruitment. It's a very competitive workforce right now. It's a very competitive, the economy is doing well, so there's a lot of opportunities. And we're all, not just law enforcement, but industries, every sector is very competitive at this point.
I understand we're building a wall to keep the workforce out. Is that right?
And
It was a joke.
Stop.
No, I think you're right. I think that we have to recognize we are now in a labor shortage.
And we found, and this is something that we find not just with recruitment retention, but a lot of the ways we train, a lot of the ways that we run risk management and try to reach our target demographic, which is typically young people. It's not the same as it was 20 years ago. And they're changing their model dramatically on how do we reach the demographic we're looking for. And it's very social media heavy, very, the Twitter feed, short recruitment. They don't want the 2-minute, 3-minute long I love LA video. They want short, concise, 10, 15-second sound bites. So they're looking at a lot of different ways to reach the targets we're looking at.
Why are you running retention and recruitment out of the same department? They're two different things.
Well, they are, but the recruitment is the main point right now. Recruitment, we lump both together as recruitment and retention are two big problems. But recruitment is huge. We have to get people in. And we found that we were slow. People would apply, and while they were in backgrounds, we were losing people because other agencies would pick them up first. So they've been working on that, and so this year they just upped it beginning in February. They pretty much doubled the size of our recruitment unit and our background units. Our recruitment unit went from 1 sergeant, 8 deputies, and 1 custody assistant was what we had prior to February this year. Now they've upped it to 3 sergeants, 15 deputies, and a custody assistant. So they've really doubled the amount of deputies virtually and tripled the amount of sergeants. And they've hired an outside firm that started in this July to really help us focus on how do you reach the people you're looking for, how do you get to your target demographic, and they're working with personnel to do that. Our recruiters are really focusing on the north end. They realize that the north end of the county is kind of a unique area to recruit for, because if you don't live up here, it's harder to get up here. I mean, we're kind of landlocked up north, Santa Clarita, Palmdale, Lancaster. So our largest background recruitment team is for the North region. 25% of our background investigators are for the North County region. They work out of 2 offices, one in Lancaster and one in Chatsworth. And they're trying to focus on recruitment events up in the North County area, trying to get the folks who live up here. Some of the places they're looking at, or events they're looking at, is the Patriots Lunch. It was in Santa Clarita on the 12th, coming up. We're having applicant workshops at Mira Loma facility, the old Mira Loma facility. We're going to have applicant workshops up there, so when people show up who are thinking about applying, we can tell them, hey, this is what it's really like. This is what law enforcement really like. This is, the kind of jobs we have, and here's how you help market yourself. Here's how you do well on tests. Here's how you do well on the interviews. Here's the stuff you want to concentrate on to really make yourself a viable applicant. National Night Outs are all hitting up. The Antelope Valley Multicultural Festival in Palmdale, they're going to be there. Santa Clarita, the Wayside, the Chili Cook-Off, they're going to be there. They hit Edwards Air Force Base on a regular basis, because here you have young Americans who probably have a pretty good background because they're in the military at that age. So it's usually a pretty good pool to start from, and the military generally attracts the same type of person that law enforcement seems to attract. So they're seeing that as an applicant pool. The colleges, they're hitting all the colleges with the spring semester, the fall semester, which starts in August, although they call it the fall festival or fall semester. They're hitting all of our local colleges, AV colleges, COC, University of Antelope Valley. They're hitting all the colleges, Barstow, Bakersfield, anything in this region. They realize that the North County is somewhere they really have to focus on getting folks up there. It's something that I emphasize at almost all the events I go to. I always get asked, how do we get more local people policing our area? And I say, well, give me your local people. Give me your kids. Let's give me the Explorer program. That's one of our best recruitment.
Give me your kids.
Give me your kids. I love the Explorer program. It's a great pipeline for us. We have a number of deputies here at the station who started out as Explorers. And our Explorers are good kids. And a lot of them, it's who we're looking for. It's kids who are looking for a job. It's kids who a lot of them are economically
as opposed to the
disadvantaged.
LAPD Explorers who take the cars, or
Yeah, we're very careful with our Explorer program. Let me tell you, But it's the truth. It's because up here, people, all the deputies who work up here tend to live up here, right? So, and that's what we want. I want my deputies to be vested in the community. That's very important. And these explorers are a big pipeline for that. And I love the program. It pays off for us. But even if they don't even go to law enforcement, it's a program that teaches these kids important life skills that they can use in any sector. Stuff that we take for granted. It helps them with.
I'm confused. Are we actually not filling classes for the academy?
No, they are filling classes. In fact, we just had an 80 or 79 graduate Friday. We have 245 that are currently in classes right now that will graduate before the end of the year. We're starting another 90-body academy on the 26th. We're running academies both at Biscaloo Center and at College of the Canyons.
If we're filling the classes, why is there a recruitment problem?
Well, I won't say that the classes are filled to capacity, but they're getting enough to run. There comes a point where it's not even fiscally responsible to run the class because it's not a path. We're well beyond that, and they're always looking to fill to the max. Every class isn't a max, but most of them are starting 80, 90, in the 80s or 90s this year.
When you say 80
or 90 range? Well,
80 or 90% full?
No, 80 or 90 bodies in the class, whereas last year, between April of last year and October of last year, right, when we had that meeting or we had that discussion, we were running more like in the 50 to 60 range in the classes. Okay. Since then, they bumped up and running into the 80 or 90 range.
What's capacity?
I don't know what capacity is, to be honest, sir.
And what's the average graduation rate?
Out of those 90, well, I'll start with October. We'll start with December. That was the first class after we had this meeting. But we started with 77 and graduated 69. Started 87, graduated 79. 85, graduated 76. 89, started. 80, graduated. This last class, that's the last one that finished. So we're still going on from there. So they're getting a higher percentage that finishes. But the problem is you can't water down your qualifications. You can't water down your standards.
But you're only losing 10%.
Yeah, our biggest loss is not in the academy. We lose that percent in the academy. Our biggest loss is during the application process. Of the every 100 that apply, I think the number is something like 5 or 6 get hired, and then another 1 or 2 get eliminated through the academy. So like 4%, probably 4 or 5% is probably a realistic number of how many apply and how many graduate. But the huge percentage of that decrease or elimination is in the background process, not in the academy.
So if someone was at home and they want their kid to join, how do they go about that?
Go to our website, lasd.org, and it will have all the hiring opportunities on there.
You want to tell them what the website is? We have a lot of people watching.
lasd.org. That's it. Nixle, all of our local events, if you join Nixle, which is a social media platform, if you text your zip code to 888-777, you will get all of our Nixle releases. So at our local level, RPIO, Nixle's out all of our hiring opportunities and local events. Recruitment gets that to us, and then when the department is having their big events, we will send out all their stuff too. One of the big things that we're doing is we're trying to have an accelerated hiring campaign where you can do the oral and the physical and the written all in one day. If you go on our website to lsd.org to the hiring opportunities, all that stuff will be on there in those days. Will all come upon there.
And you're taking jobs that are currently occupied by deputies and putting civilians in those. Can you tell us about that?
We try to do that where we can. Some opportunity, some jobs just have to be sworn personnel, but there are jobs that can be done by non-sworn. And Mr. Dorico in the city has helped us with CSAs, community service officers, and they take some non-criminal or non-workable reports, some reports that they can take at the desk. They also help us with administrative functions that help people get reports and stuff, certain items that they want, that they need, that a non-sworn person can handle. That would be delayed if they were waiting for a sworn person. They help us out with that kind of stuff. They help us. We have a CSA on the land cap team that acts as a liaison with a lot of the apartment owners, the weed tip stuff.
Is there a process to do reports over the internet?
There is, but it's very limited on the type of reports that you can fill out that way. And we find that people don't use it very often. In fact, we had looked at putting a computer terminal in our lobby so that people came in, they could fill it out right there if they didn't have their own computer. But we find that people typically don't take advantage of that system very often. We don't get a lot of use out of it, and that's very consistent with what I've seen in the different stations I've worked. People typically call as opposed to wanting to do an internet report, unless it's like a lost cell phone or something along those lines.
Mm-hmm.
But we don't get a lot of takers.
Are we looking at that with Webster?
We will. I think there's, and I mean, respectfully, I think there is an opportunity to do a lot more online, especially with people, younger people are more familiar with how to use online.
All right, thank you.
One question. How long is the process from filling an application to classes and finish training and everything?
From application to finish training?
Yeah, the whole thing, yeah.
Our training is about 6 months long.
Okay.
Now, the application process, it depends. It depends on a number of different factors, because as an applicant's going through, they might be asked to, they're going to be asked to generate and bring in certain background information, different things. There could be issues with that where they're missing something. Say, for instance, they're missing a certain type of paperwork, and they need, the background investigator needs it. Now, a lot of it is depending on how responsive that applicant is to getting stuff.
But let's say everything goes smooth, everything's going good. What's the process?
I think we're around 9 months right now is probably the average from application to a hiring date.
Okay.
It could be longer depending on, like I said, what goes on. There's a lot of nuances to it, and a lot of it is, I mean, it's like anyone else looking for a job. A lot of it is make sure you stay on. If anything's requested, turn it in immediately. Get it back into your background investigator, whatever the request is, get it turned back in. That's where we see our biggest problem is that kind of stuff.
One last thing.
Sure.
What's the biggest thing that gets applicants kicked out?
Dishonesty. A lot of people are afraid to admit something because they'll hear rumors from whoever that, oh, don't admit this. If you admit this, you're automatically disqualification. And sometimes you have things in your background that are automatic disqualification. But more often than not, it's a matter of how much time in between the behavior. You could, it's like any other hiring process. You look at the person's life experience. Do they have setbacks? And if they have a setback, how long ago was that setback? And have we had any further setbacks from it? So that all can be dealt with, and there's a certain amount of latitude there, in that decision making. But if you're dishonest and you're not truthful, that is a deal breaker from the very beginning. That will end you immediately. So the key is just to be honest. And in reality, if you have a disqualifying factor, you have a disqualifying factor. But it won't always be you're never going to be hired. It will be, we have to disqualify you now. Come back in 2 years to give you that little bit of space. But if it's a dishonesty issue, that's a deal breaker for us.
Thank you.
Sure. Anything else?
Thank you, Captain.
Thank you, Council.
Okay, council reports? You guys haven't done nothing? Oh, sorry.
Yeah,
My education came out.
I went to a seminar on the Valley Fever at the City of Hope. It was very educational. I think you're going to get into that at the Planning Commission.
We are. Matter of fact, next Monday night at 4 p.m., we'll have a presentation from our own city staff as well as Los Angeles County Department of Health. Some of us would have liked to have attended that City of Hope conference if we'd have known about it. But I understand it was very, very useful.
It was educational. We've had seminars at the AVA QMD, and they're very similar, so it's some of the same staff. I also went to a lawnmower giveaway. The AVA QMD gave away some lawnmowers, electric lawnmowers. When you replace a regular lawnmower with an electric lawnmower, it's the equivalent of taking 7 cars off the street, so that's good. The PBR 4th of July at the fairgrounds was good. We have a problem with CAL FIRE. Can we address that before next year?
Absolutely. Already in the works, and we've talked to the.
I would certainly hope we address a few things. I do not want to see kids sitting in seats for hours waiting for the fireworks that start at 10 o'clock at night. That just is unacceptable. I want the timing of that event looked at, handled, and I don't really care what we have to do to change it. But that can't happen again. Fair enough? Thank you. Would you agree?
I would. I already talked to the fairgrounds in regards to it and bumping it back either 30 minutes to an hour, so we can put entertainment in there as a filler until it gets dark. But we didn't get the ability to go out till 9:45.
All right. Anything else? Criminal justice, anything? Where's your speech? You don't have a speech?
No, I don't have a speech.
Okay. Planning?
Well, the point that Vice Mayor mentioned regarding the Valley Fever issue and normal routine, we have a couple of projects coming forward, including a medical cannabis cultivation application that we'll be considering Monday night. I think it's the 7th one.
7 out of the 10?
7 out of the 10 that the council has considered.
Okay.
And I believe there's other applications in the process. I mean, I'm not involved with that part, but.
So, do we have any up and running yet?
We have 2. I'm going to get a status, which I'll share with council next week. We have 2 that look very close. There's a couple of Edison issues that are holding up, some power issues that we're trying to work through Lancaster Choice Energy, but we would fully expect to have 2 or 3 up this calendar year.
Okay. Hey, maybe we could use that for recruitment, Captain. No, never mind. That probably wouldn't work. No?
No.
Okay. All right. That's good.
City manager.
No, I'm seeing when I'm going to come on. All right. Should I do my thing now? Sure? All right. So, if you've looked at my Facebook page, which I'm sure everybody here has, right?
just think if I had
Do you
seven.
really think there's a shortage of smart? Never mind. All right. Here's the journal Neuroradiology, which is a highly respected, peer-reviewed journal, came out with the fact that neckties decrease cranial blood flow by 7.5%. It also increases ocular pressure, meaning your eyeball pressure, which leads to glaucoma. I believe that as a mayor and as a city council member, what the role we occupy is to increase the ability, not making it mandatory, but the ability for the people in this city to thrive and to eliminate issues that make it difficult to thrive. So here we are, we're given this information, but tradition is that employers can require that you wear a tie. Certainly the city is going to do away with that requirement, I would hope, as a requirement. I mean, listen, and believe me, I've got quite an investment in ties. But I'm not going to wear them anymore for that reason. Why would I mean, I get on this damn bike in my stationary bike for an hour just to increase blood flow to my brain. Why would I diminish it? Because that's what fights off. When you get my age, you worry about Alzheimer's, things like that. So you do everything you can to avoid it. Why would I do something that increases it? And so what I'd like to see is, what commission should we have look at this?
Probably the Healthy Community Commission.
In the next 2 weeks, I'd like a report back as to whether or not this is real science, if this is a real issue. And if it is, what I'd like to do is we pass an ordinance that you cannot require somebody to wear a tie in the city of Lancaster. I mean, I'm not saying, I think people should be able to go kill themselves if they want to. Seriously, I think people should be able to control their own lives if they're an adult. But I don't think we get to compel people to do something if we know it is detrimental to their well-being. Any thoughts? Thank you.
So
I appreciate that.
then,
Fix your color.
so Mayor, so what you're saying then is that the brain power of the men on the city council is about to increase?
I'd like to point out that I am not wearing a tie, and so I am smart enough not to get into that.
Well said.
So, I mean, seriously, am I way in left field here? Or, I mean, I just don't think that we've hesitated to do things that once the science makes sense. That's why we're the first net zero city. That's why and I think this is just part of that. But if there's a reason why I shouldn't be pursuing this, somebody tell me.
No, I think it's a good idea, except that I wear a tie for respect for the institution. So if the requirement is lifted, I still have respect for the institution because I need that extra 7.5%.
That's right. All I'm saying is we're not looking at an ordinance that says you can't wear one. It's just I can't make you wear one, and that's the difference. But it is going to have a far reach. We got a courtroom. We got a courthouse in the city of Lancaster. It would affect them. But it is our role to protect the health and safety of the community. And if we see something that is detrimental to that, we should act. Right? Okay. But I'd be interested in hearing from the community, too. Makes more sense than the bird sound, doesn't it? Okay.
I bit my tongue a lot tonight.
You're a good man, Marvin. Okay, let's move on. No action on the Energy Authority, no action on the Power Authority. You know, I kind of like that. Lancaster Power Authority. Who came up with that name? You know, but you'd think there'd be more involved.
Medford came up with it.
Lancaster Successor Agency, no action. City Manager, do you have any announcements?
Just one. We want to show you a clip. It's a little longer than normal, but I think it's important. True Community is part of the series on Lancaster TV that we're going to show, and it's intended, we tend, and the outside world tends to focus more on problems and not what we do for things. This is really, I think, inspiring. It's about Penny Lane, how it started, and the good work they do in terms of foster. So, hope you enjoy it.
In this episode of True Community, we're going to visit with Penny Lane, a local organization that helps hundreds of Antelope Valley youth every year.
I'm a first-generation feminist.
Evelise Markovitz, who's more lovingly known as Eve, graduated from high school in her native Puerto Rico before moving to Southern California with an itch for social justice.
I was training as a probation officer at that time, and I had a caseload of 50 teenage girls that I was supposed to find an adequate home for. There were not facilities for teenage girls at that time, and I decided that I wanted to do something about that.
Eve persevered through all obstacles she faced in pursuit of this dream. Inspired by the cheerful Beatles tune that celebrates the simple joys of life, Penny Lane was born.
We opened December the 15th of 1969. We started with 25 teenage girls, all of them wards of the juvenile court, and that was our beginning.
And now the organization has a half-century legacy of building hopes and dreams by empowering children, youth, and families to reach their highest potential.
We're here to help, to provide services for people that need our services.
Eve's heart comes through in everything, and I think for the most part, even from our executive team all the way down, it's really about focusing on making a difference in whatever way that looks.
Her vision all along has been, what else is there out there that we can do? The vision is to meet people where they're at and help them be their very best.
Of the nearly 50 years in service, the last 10 has included their location in the city of Lancaster.
One day I was in a mental health meeting, and the mental health administrator was saying, we need organizations like yours to come to the valley because we don't have enough services there. We have been very successful in the Antelope Valley. We service over 1,000 kids and families. There are many foster family agencies in this area, and this is a place where they come to receive their services.
My youngest daughter is adopted, and she's adopted through Penny Lane.
Edwin and Melissa McDougall, who've been married for 40 years, have been adoptive and foster parents through Penny Lane.
They're amazing, the McDougalls. Yes, they're amazing. They've been with us for 20 years. And we have quite a few families that have been with us 15, 20, 25 years as foster parents.
We have foster family agencies, kids that are placed by the court in our foster homes. And we provide supportive services for those kids and those families.
We got this little girl from a prior foster home from Penny Lane, and she was up for adoption. And my oldest daughter fell in love with her. And to make a long story short, that was 20 years ago. My daughter is 22.
Penny Lane is very hands-on. You know, it's not like you become a foster parent and they throw you out there and you're kind of like on your own, have to figure things out and how things are going to go. No. It's one of those situations where they're there for you.
It's a very difficult job for foster parents to do, and they have to come with their whole heart and willingness to go the distance with these kids.
We see children that have been abused and neglected. Unfortunately, kids that have been through some really dark situations with sexual abuse, physical abuse, neglect.
You have different challenges because you have kids where they come in, they're more defiant, they come in with trauma. And so with our training from Penny Lane, we're able to cope with those trauma.
How many children do we service every year? About 1,000. We have psychiatrists, doctors, social workers, psychotherapists, mental health professionals, a full complement of different kinds of staff, about 200 of them.
We also provide some employment services. A lot of these individuals have never worked. We actually have a tree that for everyone that gets employed, we hang a little leaf on the elm tree to represent the amount of jobs that we've gotten.
My staff go into the homes and provide family counseling, connections to the community. We make sure they get into mental health services. We actually provide nurturing parenting classes here for free. We make sure that they have the tools that they need to safely take care of their children.
I mean, they are there. And if I have a crisis, someone will be at my home or someone will be calling to walk us through.
It's nice to give them the opportunity to be able to be the best parent that they can.
Well, I am in charge of all of our intensive services as well as our transitional age youth services. Kids that have been in, 60 plus group homes, foster homes, bouncing all over the county. We have kids, youth with significant trauma.
We see clients primarily 0 to 21 who have a mental health diagnosis. So we do individual therapy, group therapy, family therapy.
I also oversee a program called Embracing Identities, which is really focused on the LGBTQI2S. We encourage and welcome anybody that identifies in any of those areas. Yellow Submarine is one of our newest programs that we just started. It's been about a year and a half since we started it, and it is a transitional age youth drop-in center. So that is targeted to youth between the ages of 16 and 25 who maybe need to come have a safe place to hang out. They also can access services, they can get meals, we have a shower. So this is our spa, so we have a lovely shower, as well as toothpaste, toothbrushes, lotions, any of those things that are just really necessary. So now we're going to be walking into the main part of our building here.
It's a cool building.
Yes, it's taken some adjusting to the weather we have here.
When you build in Lancaster, your main worry is the wind. We have outer wall insulation, solar power incorporated into the structural design, a rain reclamation cistern system. We have berms which protect the building from the wind. It's a great building, it's beautiful.
The building goes in one giant circle. All of these offices on the outside is our outpatient clinic.
It's a lot of offices here.
It is. We have a very large outpatient mental health program as well as we have intensive services.
While the current Penny Lane facility in Lancaster is an architectural marvel, there's still more under construction.
Right behind this building, we're in construction for an apartment building for 75 units, 50 of which are dedicated to homeless veterans. There's a serious problem here with the issue of homeless veterans, so we'll be able not only to house them, but to provide a multiple of services for the veterans.
Though this line of work comes with great challenges, everyone involved seems to agree the reward is worth the efforts.
Very rewarding. Yeah, very rewarding.
It's very rewarding. It actually led me to become a foster parent myself.
I've been able to, in those 14 years, do some really amazing things in situations that sometimes seemed hopeless. But there's no such thing.
As Penny Lane continues to face social and economic hurdles, Eve has a method to persevere when the going gets tough.
A lot of determination, a lot of hard work, and a lot of help from so many people. Like the Beatles say, with a little bit of help with our friends, we can do anything. Because all you need is love. And all we have needed has been love.
Penny Lane is located on Avenue K and Division in the city of Lancaster. and can be reached by calling 661-266-4783 or by visiting their website at pennylane.org. Penny Lane, bringing hope to our local families, proving to be a vital component of our true community.
Thank you. City Clerk.
This is the time to address the City Council, agency, and authority on non-agendized matters. Speaker cards can be found on the back table of the council chambers. Individual speakers are limited to 3 minutes each. State law prohibits the City Council from taking action on items not on the agenda, and your matter may be referred to the City Manager. Thank you.
Thank you. Jessica Martinez, where are you? Come on down.
Hello.
Hello.
Had to be the first one, huh?
Got to talk louder.
I had to be the first one. So when you spoke earlier about the security system, were you asking the sheriff if you were gonna limit the calls?
If we were going to what?
Sorry, a little nervous, but what I was concerned about the conversation you had with the sheriff, were you asking to limit the calls of the alarm? Because I rely on the alarms for my family for our safety, and it was just a concern.
No, what I was suggesting is that if we know that we're constantly sending units on types of calls that are non-productive, that we put those at the bottom of the pile, right? That those become very low priority. And I don't know the answer to it. I don't know if there's a way to filter them so that there's some assurances that they're only responding to calls that are necessary. Because it's like everything else. Most of what we do is unnecessary. And we've got to figure out a way to be more effective at how we manage our resources. Okay?
That's all I have. Thank you.
You're welcome. That was pretty good. That was even on the fly, wasn't it? I was impressed.
Should explain to them that this is not usually how we do this. It's question and answer, because people might think that these are college students. Because we're going to get people here, and they're going to ask us a question.
I'll let you answer them.
Okay.
Desiree, what is it? Quadra? But you spelled it with a C. Come on down. I'm trying to learn Spanish on Babel. You know that software Babel? It's 20 minutes a day. It's not very effective so far.
I'm kind of short.
You're also from AV College, right?
Yes, we're all from Antelope Valley College. I have a few questions. The first one, I wanted to know, where do most of the city taxes go, and like, are there
Fellow Sharkers.
are there any specific projects that you guys have been working on, like with the taxes?
Too big of a question. But most of the taxes go to law enforcement, don't they? That's the biggest portion of our budget.
Okay.
All right.
Next question. What do you guys do to help solve the homelessness issues here in like the AV and Lancaster? Because there's a lot of homeless people here, and I'm just like concerned and curious as to like what goes into solving the issue.
Well, we're in the process of the city, along with the county and private developers. We're building a 14-acre complex that is designed to graduate people into permanent housing. And it's innovative, it's creative, and I have great hopes for it. Okay?
And then
You're going to use up everybody's questions. You know that.
Really quick questions. I'm studying to be a future educator, and I just wanted to know, like, how much do you guys really, like, care for, like, and I feel like, do you guys really try to enrich education here in the AV, and what kind of work do you guys put towards making it better and making it thrive?
Well, you know, it's a difficult issue because the city doesn't really have much influence on the schools. Right? But people think we do. You know, people think it's under our umbrella, but it's not. Personally, I think we should have a lot more influence than we do.
All right, and then one last question. It's kind of a silly one, but for Mr. Molly, are you in any way affiliated with that Indian restaurant, Molly's?
Yes, that's my family restaurant.
I love that restaurant.
Thank
I go
you.
there all the time.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
You know, therefore, you're going to bring your family for on the house. You know, you can bring your dinner. Okay, bring your family, and dinner will be on the house.
Thank you.
Welcome.
I like it too.
Me too.
Only for her, because she.
He's delightful. I don't know how to pronounce this. Mahenaz. Come on down. And I'm not even going to, E-L, you got to introduce yourself, okay?
Hello, Mr. Mayor.
Hello, how are you?
My name is Mahenaz Al-Hardi, by the way.
I knew that.
Okay, well, I just have two questions. The first one is, I want you to share an example of when you established and accomplished a goal that was personally challenging, and what helped you succeed?
Getting up in the morning, no. Somebody want to do that? You know, that is a persistent thing I read about and work on, and you know, is how to accomplish goals better. You know, and probably the thing I've learned. I'm 67 now. The thing I wish I had learned when I was your age is just paying attention to the thing in front of me instead of the thing that's 5 years from now. You know what I mean? What am I doing in the next 20 minutes as opposed to what am I going to do in the next 2 years? We tend to project too far into the future and not focus enough on the task with the recognition that all discomfort ends, meaning regardless of the task I'm engaged in, it will end. You know, no matter how much it hurts or no matter how much I'm sweating or no matter how much embarrassed I might be. You know, like when I was you coming up and having to talk, I couldn't have done that at your age. No way would I be standing there. It's very difficult. But if I just understood back then that all discomfort comes to an end, it makes everything so much easier. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. Thank you. My second question is, how do you balance cooperation with others and independent thinking? Share an example, please.
I've never got that cooperation with others down. You got to talk to somebody else about that.
Well, if anybody wants to answer. Vice Mayor?
I think it's the cooperation between we have a lot of partnerships within the city. We partner with a lot of people. So we take a look at what the business needs are and what their needs are going to be. So you have a lot of business people that sit up here, which is different than most city councils. Most city councils don't have a lot of business people that up here. But if you see the cooperation that we have and the partnerships that we have is the best way that I could explain it.
Okay. Well, thank you very much.
Actually, you know, I do want to weigh in on that one. what I think we look for the most is people who are really interested in the welfare of the people around them, meaning the people of the city, that welfare comes first. That's really the only criteria I have in working with somebody. When I see people whose criteria is I come first, I work really hard to get rid of them. But if their desire is to just take care of the welfare of the people who live here, I don't care if they agree with me or not. There's a place for them. Okay?
Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good questions.
What happened over there? You guys seem smarter. Jasmine. Ayla? Yeah, good. Come on down. Tough bar you got to meet. We're expecting a lot from you.
Okay. So my first question is, what were some recent projects you worked on? Tell me about a problem you faced and the path you took to a solution.
The boulevard.
Well, I would, you know, as a council, everybody has a little piece of it. Actually, they're big pieces. Nobody's getting paid for it. You know, it really is a labor of love. But I think every time we turn around, it's a challenge. The biggest one was getting employment up, wouldn't you say?
I do. We have 4.2% unemployment. We have a sheriff department that is actively looking for people. We have Northrop, which we have a partnership with one of our deputy mayors, looking for people. They're looking for especially women out there. So when you have a city that is at 4.2% and we have basically a couple thousand jobs out there that people are looking that haven't been filled yet, we're doing a good job.
Okay. And my second question is, what is the most frustrating part of your job?
What is the most what?
Frustrating part of your job.
Next to me.
I'm always astonished how slow things take, you know, how much time things take. And I understand it more as I've been here longer. You know, like if we want to do something, you got to budget it. Right. Well, you know, I have a business where if I want to do something, I tell my wife and she tells somebody to do it. You know, you see the difference? Where in government, you've got to have a lot of T's crossed and a lot of I's dotted. But Jeff, I want you to know that I was driving down the street and you're fixing the fence so that people don't blow over into the freeway when they're riding their bike. And that was an example because just yesterday I'm thinking, they forgot about that. But it takes, the process, it just takes so long. You know. An example would be the neckties. I think that is really good science, makes really good sense. But for the world to react to it is going to take 30 years. That's why, you know, one of the things I love about Lancaster is that we can make a decision, is the science real, and then act.
Right. Okay. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Is it Sheila Bedingfield? All right, Sheila, make it good.
Good evening. My questions are kind of general, so we'll see how good this can be. But my first question is, what is your number one priority for being mayor?
You know, that changes. The one that has always remained consistent is I think we have an obligation to make this community safe for the people who live here. And I don't think we've fulfilled that. And it's frustrating because we really don't know how to. You know, I mean, we do a lot of things well, we do a lot of things right, but at the end of the day, people still keep hurting each other. And how do we stop them from doing that? That's my biggest frustration.
My second question is, what advice would you have to give someone who is interested in being a mayor?
Why would somebody be interested in being a mayor if they haven't, been on a commission, if they haven't been in the planning commission, if they haven't seen what the job entails? What I love about this council is they actually want to create things and be responsible for developing things. What I don't want to see is people who, well, I make very good decisions for the city. Yeah, that's bull. Well, yeah, you know what that is. It's too many people want the job for the celebrity that comes with the job. They want to ride in the parades. They want to go to the parties. That's never been a thing for me. And I think they'll tell you that if there's a failing that I have, it's that I don't go to those things. I don't want, that's not why I'm here. I'm here to see what we can create. Okay. Does that help you at all?
Yeah, it does.
Good.
My last question is, how difficult is it being a mayor?
Some days are easy, some days are terrible. I guess it depends on how much accountability you're willing to take. I personally feel that every time a child dies in this community, it was our fault because we did not do what was necessary to protect them. And when we had a police officer die, I thought that was absolutely our fault because we didn't have enough resources out there. When we saw the burglary rates going up, we didn't do something to stop it. Does that answer your? Okay.
Yep,
Don't ask me those damn things. I was having a good time when you got up there.
Sorry about that. Thank you.
Vanessa Campos. All right, cheer me up here. Come on.
Good evening. How are you today?
That was great. I was fine a few minutes ago.
I kind of wanted to ask you, Mr. Paris, in what ways did you plummet the crime rate in the first 3 years in office? What did you do exactly that?
I didn't do anything. What I did was got people off the sheriff's department's back and let them do it. I let them do their job. Well, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay. I think most of what my job is as mayor is getting people out of the way, getting the naysayers out of the way, and letting people focus on what they do best. I think the sheriff's department could solve whatever crime problem we still have left if we just left them alone to do it. But right now it's very popular to take away any autonomy the officers have out in the field and micromanage them. Because we want to act like we're not going to make mistakes and there isn't going to be collateral damage. There is. But I'm more concerned about the 13-year-old girl that got gunned down at a party the first 6 months I was in office than I am about maybe overreacting with some hoodlum out in the street. You see the difference?
I do.
And I never would have thought I would say this stuff before I got elected. I was a big civil libertarian before I got elected.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I still have another question
Sure.
for Mr. Mully. What obstacles did you encounter in job creation and economic development efforts as the planning commissioner?
Well, when we were in the planning commission, we Mayor Paris, BYD brought it from China. That was and I was in the planning commission at that time when the company came. So there. Many other things we did, for example, the solar and all those things. Anything you do, there's always a obstacle, but it's a teamwork. So I was very fortunate that I had a great planning commissioner at that time, a great mayor and a council. They let us do whatever we wanted to do. So I think that was the main thing. We were able to do everything. Did that answer your question?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
I don't know if I have time for another one.
You got 4 seconds.
That means no. Thank you.
Jaylene. She left? Oh, okay. She's excused. Well, would you like to come down and give it to us? What's your name? Oh, we're going to have Vanessa do it. You kind of like that spotlight, don't you? It's kind of warm, isn't it? Sometimes it burns.
Her question was for Underwood Jacobs. She asked, tell me how you organize, plan, and prioritize your work.
You know, I tend to take a very balanced approach with my personal life and my professional life. I make sure that I use a calendar relentlessly. I actually have 2. I have one that I'm writing out things. Sometimes I'm scheduling for every 15 minutes of my day. So I have to make sure that I'm extremely organized and know ahead of time and what it is coming up. So preparation, especially when it meets opportunity, we want to make sure that we're ready. So I organize my day very similar to how I organize my life, and making sure that things are, I don't know, just kind of in order. I like to live a very harmonious life, and I do the same thing with my business as well.
Okay, thank you. Her next question was for Mr. Christ.
Yeah.
As the director of the Kids Charities of the AB, what ways do you suggest involving the community and local organizations?
Well, you can get involved in, I think before you take a step up here, that your involvement in the community and seeing what the community actually does. If you can give to the community, I think Martin Luther King said everyone can participate in a community, but the best way to give is your time. And we see that during Martin Luther King Day, but like with the kids' charities, a lot of people donated. We gave, or do give, money to 28 different charities. And by giving that money to different charities, you're helping the entire community. You're just organizing it. And listening to what the councilwoman said, we might have to get her to organize this.
Okay. I think that completes it all. Thank you.
Thank you. Monique Jackson.
Hello.
Hi, how are you?
I'm well, thank you. My first question is, like, I know a lot of items and projects come across your desk. How do you pick which one gets on the agenda and be voted on at the meeting?
You know, it sort of just evolves, really. You know, the city staff, they know what needs to be done and they put it on. But I think your question more is about, of all the things coming at you, which ones do you pick to focus on to make happen, right?
Yes.
And the answer to that for me is the people that come with the most specific plan in place as to this will improve things. And they have real specific steps to get there. I'm much more likely to jump on board with that than I am with, you know, just a problem or, you know, just something really broad. Because those people come in and I talk to them and I tend to agree with them. You know, if I agree, I agree. But it's not going to go anywhere because they haven't given me any specific thing they want to have done. What I want is somebody that's going to come in where I can pick up the phone and get things moving. if there's not enough planning before you get in to see me, you know, we got to know each other, but that's about all, you know.
Okay, and then my second question is for the housing authority, like the project you guys were talking about earlier. How many jobs is that going to create?
And she knew who to ask.
Well, actually, Liz would probably be better, but that's a really good question because it's not just the operation, but it's during this construction. It's a very large project. What they approved was the design aspects of it, so that action will be, you know, engineers and architects. But it's a large project. Liz, I don't know if you have a specific estimate on jobs.
No, but there'll be a lot of people employed after the construction that will be permanent employees who will provide services there. So you've got a lot of jobs that will be there permanently other than just the construction.
Okay, thank you. And that's all I have.
Thank you. Dulce Flores.
Hi.
Hi, how are you?
Good, and you?
Good.
I just have like 3 simple questions.
Okay.
Did you always live here in Lancaster?
No.
Where did you live before?
I was born in Lancaster, but I grew up in Palmdale. And then I lived all over the place. And then I came back after law school.
Okay. How long did it took you, the process, and like what college did you went to be in the position that you are right now?
Well, you certainly don't want to follow that path because I couldn't be here if I were to start where you are now. I would not get here because the world became much more competitive for your age group than it was for me. You know, I went to AB. I didn't have a high school. I didn't finish high school. I went to the same high school he did, but he finished. They asked me to leave. Go figure. You know. But I went to AB College, and AB College, you know, gave me the foundation, and then I transferred to Santa Barbara, and then I eventually went to law school.
Okay, so my last question is like general for all of you. Do you guys like soccer?
Do we like what?
Soccer?
Who doesn't like soccer?
Yeah.
I don't think Marvin does.
We're actually looking to invite some of the soccer teams during the next tournament. So, yes, that's why we have a soccer field that's bigger than anyone else in the state of California.
That tournament he's talking about is the World Cup, right?
I work for a living. I'm not at home watching TV.
And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Liliana Villalobos.
Hello.
Hi.
I have 2 questions for you, Mayor.
Yes.
The first one is, what are your greatest strengths and weaknesses?
Yeah, I'm going to tell you that.
I can't.
Okay. We're going to have a group therapy here.
He is great at pushing everybody to their limit and meaning good because he wants you to perform. And his biggest weakness is he pushes too much. So he wants you to perform. He wants everybody in the city to perform. He wants to make it a great city. So he does ask a lot of everybody that is here, and especially the people that are up here on the dais. So, but it's also one of his weaknesses because sometimes you can't go anymore. So that would be my opinion.
You see, I quit drinking, so I don't have anything to do at night other than work.
And my next one is, tell me about a time you had to work with someone difficult.
What was the question?
Tell me about a time you had to work with someone difficult.
You know, I look for that, actually. You know, but there's a difference between somebody who's toxic and just constantly is looking for the negative, you know, and complaining about it. That's a toxic personality. I don't work with them. But as far as difficult, welcome to my club here. I mean, every one of these people are difficult. They don't agree with me most of the time. They don't hesitate to tell me when I'm being a jerk, you know, and sometimes I'm a jerk. But I really thrive on that because that's what creates things, you know. I am pretty good at coming up with ideas, but I'm terrible at executing. Marvin just goes and does it, you know. I can't read an accounting sheet, you know, profit loss. My wife does that. Here, Angela does that. Everybody has, you know, very unique skills, and we don't get along necessarily when we do it. But we all have one goal, and that's to improve the well-being of the people who live here. Wouldn't you agree with that? Agree?
That's great.
I mean, you should have seen it when we talked about growing marijuana.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. That should be the next question.
But that is an example. You know, most people just take the bad stuff and never bring it up, and we don't run from it. Kayla Neal. You look nervous. You're not nervous.
A little bit. So, actually, my question was already taken. So
now you're on the fly, right?
Yeah.
Okay, got it.
So it was about the increase in homelessness. What are we going to do about it? But now, you said that we're going to build a facility. How long is it going to take, in roughly?
Well, given the people who are doing it, you know, I mean, this staff, you can do things in Lancaster 10 times as quickly as you can do anywhere else. Because the culture here is to say yes, and not to say no. You know, there has to be a good reason to say no to something. And then the developer himself, he did a lot of the boulevard. He executes. It's amazing that group they've put together. Incredibly smart people that just get things done. Now, they forgot to put water in it. They did. They forgot the water, right? How to get the water. But they were able to solve that in a week. That would have stalled most projects for a year. You know, does that help you? In a year.
Roughly.
That'll be up and running 100% in a year.
Okay.
Maybe less, right? Less than a year. Yeah.
All right. That's all my questions.
Okay.
Thank you.
Fran, let's have a break. Come on in.
It's almost there anyway.
I think I hurt his feelings.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, Vice Mayor, members of the council, ladies and gentlemen, and the staff. My name is Fran Sarasaris, and I wanted first to say the rodeo and the 4th of July celebration that you had at the fair was wonderful.
It was just late.
Especially for the children. It was a little late, but otherwise it turned out really nice. I had a good time. Now, one of my things I want to ask about is I belong to the Wellness Coalition at the Antelope Valley Partners for Health, and I'm on the committee safety and wellness and for the population here in Lancaster. But my question is, we're working on a survey for safety here in Lancaster, and I want to know, where do I direct my questions? Is it to the city council, the sheriffs, criminal justice, to get what you have in hand for surveys on safety of what's going on in our city or in the whole AV area. We're compiling, our group is trying to compile a survey to be able to hopefully go out and help the rest of the population with some problems they might have. But we're in that process right now. So that's my question. That's one of my questions. My second question, how about bow ties instead of regular ties? Okay. I thought I'd get you on that one.
No.
But I also have another one on the Metrolink, and this is kind of a division because I know it's between, we have a responsibility on the one side of the yellow line as Lancaster, and then Metrolink has the say on the other side of the line. My question is, especially this last week when it was so hot, I had to go catch the train to go down, and it was unbearable, especially the area where the ramp that we have to go up to wait for the train to, when they open up and put the disabled the ramp, to put the disabled ramp for us. But there is no overhang covering for us to keep us out of the climate and the heat in the winter and the summer and rain in the winter. Is there anything that could be done for us not only for me, but there's a lot of people that are standing in line waiting for the Metrolink to come, because
I was out of town last week, but I left specific instructions with Marvin to keep the temperature down.
what happened?
But he will respond to your shade issue.
We'll take care of it.
Okay, thank you. And I think, thank you very much. God bless you all.
Thank you, Fran. See how he executes? Diana Alvarado?
We did give water to the sheriff department, 2 pallets.
Really? Good.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I'm a student of political science at Antelope Valley College, and I have a question for Mayor Paris. Millennials continue to have the lowest voter turnout of any age group. What are some ways that we can change this in Lancaster, or at least improve it?
Well, if what's happening in the world isn't motivation enough, there are ways to improve it. The easiest way is to make it easier. If we had if all balloting was done by mail, we know that raises voter participation up tremendously. The secondary issue to that is high voter participation necessarily a good thing? If you have to make it so easy that, you follow me on that?
Yeah.
I mean, do we have a better government when people have to make an effort to participate in it? I don't know the answer, but I know that we just assume that high voter participation is a good thing. I don't know that it is. And I'd want to know that before I started changing things up. But it is, I think maybe perhaps voter participation is something that one grows into. I mean, it's more important to me as I get older. It certainly became more important to me when I got married. My wife and I used to go together and vote. It was a big deal. So I don't know that it's a problem that millennials don't. Maybe they're just not ready to.
Thank you for the new perspective.
Thank you.
And I had a second question.
Sure.
Open to any of the members who would like to respond. Do you have any advice for the college students that are present here today?
Work your butt off. Seriously, we are walking into such a competitive environment that if you're not working really hard, it'll pass you by. But now, if you want some great advice, you want to know who gets A's in college? people who get up before 6 o'clock. People who get Bs get up out of bed before 7 o'clock. Everybody else is after that. Now, there might be a lot of causal reasons for that, but we know for a fact that that is the one commonality of people who get really good grades. Think about it. What time do you get up?
6.
Yeah. Okay.
Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Isaiah Han. Also, I win my trials when I get up at 4 o'clock. Tend not to after that.
Good afternoon. My name is Isaiah Han. I'm from Highland High School.
Hi.
I have 4 quick questions. First and foremost, how large does the role of bipartisan politics have an effect on this council?
I don't think it does. I don't even know how people are registered. You know.
And do you have any advice for an aspiring public servant?
What does that mean? What's a public servant?
You guys here,
You mean an elected official?
Yes.
Yeah. Well, you know, first you got to find out what can you bring to the table. You know, how are you training yourself to be able to do this job? All right. Does that help at all?
Yes.
Okay.
And then what keeps you ticking? What makes you wake up in the morning? Why do you do what you do? What drives you?
I really like the people I work with. You know, I really do. I enjoy the interaction. I enjoy the fights when we have a fight. You know.
Sometimes he enjoys them too much.
Probably.
And what do you believe is an important trait for an elected official?
I'm sorry, what?
Important trait for an elected official.
You know, the ability to listen to people. I think that's my greatest failing, is I don't listen enough. What do you think?
If you look at the people that are up here now, they're involved in the different charities. You get involved in your community. You see what your community needs, what it's lacking, and how you're able to change that. So if you can see all those different things and how you can step forward to it and how you can help, just makes a better community.
And lastly, do you love what you do here as a mayor?
Me?
Yes.
Yeah. Absolutely. I mean, think about it. Look what I get to do. I get to come to, every day. I get to get up and work on things to improve people's lives. What more could you ask for? You know, even when I'm really depressed, I'm loving it. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Nancy. Yeah, that's you. Come on down.
Hello, good evening. I just have one question for the mayor. What has been the most rewarding moment as a mayor?
There have been so many. Wouldn't you? I mean,
The most recent one?
you know, the one I think that brought me the most personal satisfaction was BYD opening, because I knew that was going to be thousands of jobs. You know, when you extrapolate it out to vendors and all that, that was probably the best, because you know, if you don't have an income, a living income, it's hard, you know, to have any life at all. Right?
Thank you.
You're welcome. Karen Lima? Well, this better be good, Karen, because you got a fan club out there.
Hello.
Hi.
One question is, what do you consider to be your biggest accomplishment as mayor and the biggest failure?
Well, certainly the biggest accomplishment was reducing the gangs. You know, when you think back 10 years ago, well, you were a baby, so you don't know. But we were overrun. You know, we had kids being shot down in the street, literally. So that was, you know, I think we're a much safer place. But I think perhaps the biggest accomplishment is look at the diversity of this group. This used to be a fat white man's club. You know, I even lost weight. You know. What's happening in this city is we have a really diverse leadership that is spread. You know, when we first got elected, there were just 5 people that ran this place, and we all appointed a planning commissioner. You know, so the first council meeting, I fired the planning commission and expanded it out. Remember that? Now there's a lot of people actively engaged in making very real decisions about how this city operates. You know, and I'm really proud of that. You know, even if they're not always nice to me.
And your biggest failure?
I think I was far too harsh the first couple of years than I needed to be. I think I could have accomplished the same without alienating as many. And I wish I spoke louder.
How do you plan on paying for the 14-acre apartment for the homeless?
I'm going to get somebody else to. And we did, didn't we? There's a lot of funding out there, but you have to create an environment that people can see that if you plant those seeds here, it will grow. And I think that we've successfully done that. And so, you know, we're getting a substantial amount of the Proposition H money. Things are starting to take off.
And one last question. Besides homelessness, what's another big issue that you would like to focus on?
I think we have to improve the school systems here tremendously. If we're really going to thrive, people have to want their kids to go to school here, because that's going to determine who lives here. You know, and that has to be done sooner than later.
I agree.
Okay.
That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. George, come on down. Hey, that concludes the Antelope Valley College people. Thank you. I always enjoy when you come and talk to us. If we can assist you in getting more involved in what the city does, that's Evelyn over there. Talk to Evelyn. She's the conduit to me. Okay. Thank you.
Mayor Paris, Vice Mayor Chris, council members, ladies and gentlemen, my name is George Beatty Sr., and I have touched quite a few times, I guess, on this empty homes. Now, as being an ex-landlord, when I rented my house in Canyon Country, I was able to go get a credit check on a potential renter. The renter lying to me failed the credit check, okay? And I can see where I'd like to have the city reach out to the children's services, and my heart goes out to those people because they have a hell of a job simply on account of the 2 words due process that they have to follow. They have to have evidence before they can take the children out of those homes. Can we devise some kind of a system to where we could assist the children's services and determine what is torture and what is child abuse? The due process law words pertain to everything. I asked you, Mark, about the empty homes. You said nothing's in writing. It's all due process. But what I'm saying is, why can't we devise a step-by-step procedure on these empty homes? Protect our deputy sheriffs who are going in, taking squatters out of these homes. Some of the homes is extremely contaminated with raw sewage. It has to have a hazmat to empty those homes, and it has to have a special contractor to get it inspected to make sure it's okay to repaint, because the raw sewage comes right through the flat paint. I hope I'm given some kind of a positive attitude of trying to do something about these empty homes. They're all over. And the same house I mentioned at 2132 on Beechwood is still empty. It's got a red padlock on the door, but I haven't heard nothing. I don't know who to even ask about what's going on. Who put the red lock on there? Was it code enforcement? Is code enforcement going to demand that a hazmat troop go in there to clean it? Because there's numerous dead animals in there. Have they been contacted? Cruelty to animal people. I don't know. All utilities have been shut off for 8-10 months. My point, code enforcement, isn't there a way we could set up a program, whoever owns the house, fines start after 6 months with the utilities off, and they continue to increase regardless, bank, mortgage company, private owner, whatever, until they do something about it. This house is still not being touched by anybody. It's over a year and a half. But the due process, I hear all the time. So,
if I wasn't clear, I apologize. There is a process. You have to follow the Lancaster Municipal Code, the Department of Health, and other state regulations. You also have property. It's not a crime to have an empty house. You can buy a house and have it empty for, well, let me finish. Okay? But it is a crime not to keep it in good repair. If there's health issues there, then that's what's being dealt with. That means you call the Department of Public Safety, Public Health or whatever, or you go through progressive system up to including taking the house. There are times we board houses if they're open and accessible. There are times that we will demolish houses if they've got to that point.
Yeah.
So the writing, and I apologize for not being clear, is the Lancaster Municipal Code, state law, and health codes.
yeah, we always have the state involved. We're going around them all the time. Yeah. But again, like I say, I'm real concerned about the deputy sheriffs. I like to see at least 50% of the vehicles out there with charcoal filtered gas masks in the back, because they're coming out of those homes throwing up. And I'm concerned with their health. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, George. David Paul?
Mr. Mayor, Vice Mayor, Council, Commissioners, and Deputy Mayors, I'm so excited to see the broad spread up there. Mr. Mayor, first of all, there's a lot of science on this. Old guys like you should not be doing cardio. Okay, you should do weight training. I do weight training, and I'd love to do with you. And the other tip I have for you is Duolingo. It's a free app that lets you learn Spanish. I prefer it much over Babbel, and it's free. I'm on 700 days. You get a streak going. Duolingo, and it's just fun. And we could talk to each other. And I'm very hesitant to speak bad Spanish to people because I'm still trying to learn. I wanted to also say that. I wanted to give props to Captain Weber. I went to a meeting a month ago at the NAACP, and we sat through this movie called Walking Black in America. I'm sorry, I don't remember the exact name of it, but it was very difficult to sit through for law enforcement, and he sat there and watched that, and his involvement is extraordinary. And Elizabeth Brubaker, you know I don't like to say nice things about you, but I was so glad to see you get that recognition tonight. And about the alarms, 3 years ago in the Planning Commission, we went through this thing where there was always a list of the most frequent alarm calls up there, and there were fines. So I don't know if we do fines to residential areas that have repeated calls, but we do that for the business. And then the last thing, I'm concerned. Last time I had to leave early, it was my son's birthday. Both my boys had their 5th birthdays here at City Council. They were both 5 on a City Council night, and I brought them. And but I wanted to tell the birth story of my son, my older son, who was at home and had some anxiety separation, and it made me think about these poor children that are separated at the border and stuff. And, you know, I was wondering if we could just do a resolution. It's non-binding, I realize that, but just to say, the city says, stop taking children away from their parents. I would love that coming out of my city.
Mayor again, aren't you?
So, yeah, it's a wonderful time, and as far as the getting more participation in elections, this might not be legal either, but we could have a 25% minimum voter turnout to certify an election, and that would get it up because that would motivate us all to get the vote out a little more, and then I might win. So thank you very much.
Mike? Okay, that's it. Any other comments from the council?
Yeah, I think the captain wanted to respond to about an app on the phone.
Yeah, if I may, I got sidetracked. I was starting to talk about how we realized that the younger demographic, you reach them in different ways than we used to, and then I got sidetracked, which I allow myself to, which seems to get easier and easier the older I get. But we just went live on an app, the Sheriff's Department did, and if you go to whatever platform you use, the App Store or whatever, if you just search LASD, the app will come up. You can actually start the application process from that app. There's a whole lot of information you can get, but you can actually start the application process on that app, and you can get you start an account where you can see where you're at in the process, and also you can actually file the reports that you can file over the internet. You can file from that app, but it's so new. It's just gone live. I don't know how much success we're having with that, but I suspect it will be probably better than the internet because that's what everybody has now. They have their phone, so there's a tremendous amount of information you can get on from the app. It's a great tool, and we just went live probably within the last month on it.
Good. Okay, well done. The city council meeting will be adjourned in memory of Deputy Mitch Speed. Detective Mitch Speed was a longtime Antelope Valley resident, man of faith, beloved son, husband, and father, cherished family member, treasured friend and colleague. Thank you. I should start over, shouldn't I? Should I start over? The city council meeting will be adjourned in memory of Deputy Mitch Speed. Detective Mitch Speed was a longtime Antelope Valley resident, man of faith, beloved son, husband and father, cherished family member, treasured friend and colleague, renowned author, and dedicated community leader. Mitch was a law enforcement officer for over 15 years, retiring in 2016 when he was diagnosed with stage 4 cancer. Upon his diagnosis, he gave his life completely to God. Mitch inspired many by his courage, strength, positivity, and by sharing of his journey, including his life lessons. Mitch touched the lives of many people and leaves behind a great legacy for his family and community. He will be greatly missed. The next meeting is scheduled for Tuesday, July 24, 2018 at 5 p.m. And Carol, I'm coming home.